Hey friends, it is Natalie and it is time for the May Reese Witherspoon Book Club Review, where we discuss 4 books from the Hello Sunshine Book Club to see if these might be good reads for you. And I also have 2 special announcements, so please stay tuned. Now, my first announcement is that Danny from Current Chapter will no longer be doing a deeper dive into the book of the month. She's not really enjoying it so far for 2020. She didn't like the February book. She hated the March book. And when she saw what the April book was, she just wasn't interested. And I told her, I said, please, I don't want you to force yourself to read books you don't want to read. But luckily, I found another booktuber, Girly Girl Bookworm, who will be taking these books and giving you a deeper dive. She started doing them in January, and we decided that we would collaborate. I just DM'd her on Instagram and said, hey, I see what you're doing. Would you like to collaborate? And she was super, super nice. So she will now be doing the deeper dive into the books if you want to take it a little bit further, if you're actually following along each month. And I will link Girly Girl Bookworm's video down in the description. My second announcement is that I'm going to be starting a new series. In fact, it should be my next video, called the Celebrity Book Club Review. Some of you caught the Emma Roberts Book Club review that I did last month, but I decided I wanted to change it up. I told you guys I was trying to figure out who did I want to follow besides Reese, and I decided I'm not going to pick. So I'm going to be following Oprah, Emma, and also Jenna Bush Hager, also known as #ReadWithJenna. And we're just going to do one video and include all 3 of them each month. And so that will be coming up really soon, and I'm really excited about it. But for right now, Reese Witherspoon Book Club is going to still be its own thing, since it's been its own thing for a while and it's working, so we're not going to change that. And let's get into the April book. The April book was Untamed by Glennon Doyle. This was a nonfiction, kind of a self-help book. And I'm not going to rate it. Girly Girl Bookworm didn't rate it either, because when it comes to self-help books, it kind of depends on where you are in your life on how you're going to rate it. What kind of help do you need? Was it super helpful to you, or was it only a little bit helpful to you? And that's kind of hard to gauge when I'm trying to talk about this book with so many of you. But the main idea of this book is you really need to be assertive as a woman and make sure that your needs and wants are being met, that you're not always putting everybody's happiness before your own, especially if it's to your own detriment. And it's called Untamed because it talks about the courage you need to live the life you really want to live and not worry if maybe it's bothering people around you. Now, when I was talking to Girly Girl Bookworm, we both were saying that we're really happy with our lives, so we didn't need to take a whole lot from this book, but we definitely thought there were some really good points in it that we could take. And I'll give you one example of one of the points that I took away from this book. She had a chapter where she talked about, these days we are so worried about kids being bored. We're always trying to set them up in a game or a video game or with an app. You know, we want to make sure that they are not bored. And she was saying it's okay for them to be bored. That's where creativity comes from. And when I read that chapter, I was just like, that is so true. Maybe I should stop worrying about entertaining, the kids in my life so much and let them be a little bored and see what they come up with. So I thought that was a great point. Girly Girl Bookworm said the same thing. She said there were definitely certain points that she took, so definitely check the video out. But yeah, if you definitely feel like maybe you put other people's needs ahead of your own, if you're maybe not living your authentic life, this would be a great read for you to kind of pump you up. Now, my makeup book this month was a historical fiction, and I read The Alice Network, and wow, what a book. And this book wasn't the easiest book to read. We are finding out what happened to female spies during World War I when they were captured by the Germans. So definitely a trigger warning with, violence. It is set in 2 timelines, and it has 2 main characters. Our first timeline is in 1915, and that is where we meet Eve. She is a young woman in her 20s, and she gets recruited to be part of the Alice Network. And that was a network of female spies. And we get to follow her and see how she spies and all the different secret things they did, which I thought was amazing. Things that I would never think of ways to hide secrets in order to get back to who it needs to get to so they can try to defeat the Germans. It was amazing. I just thought it was amazing. Now, our second timeline takes place in 1947 in the aftermath of World War II. And that's where we meet our second main character, Charlie. Charlie is an American college girl who kind of gets herself in trouble, if you know what I mean, and her parents, her mother specifically, has brought her to Europe to get the problem taken care of. But as soon as they get there, Charlie leaves her mother and seeks out Eve because she gets word that Eve might be able to help her to find her best friend and cousin Rose, who disappeared during Nazi-occupied France. What's really amazing and something that you will notice right away is how different Eve is in the two timelines. In the first timeline, she's very sweet, she is optimistic, and she wants to do what's best. And then we get to where she's in her 50s and she is bitter and she is violent and she is drunk most of the time. And immediately you're going, goodness, what happened to make this woman change and be so different? And that's kind of the bulk of the story. But if you enjoy historical fiction and you enjoy reading books that take place during World War I or World War II, or in this case both, I definitely recommend you pick this one up. Now let's get to the May pick, and I said it's got to be historical fiction. We have not had a historical fiction book for 2020 yet, and I was right, and this book sounds amazing. It's The Henna Artist. And before I get into it, I always forget this. Please hit subscribe if you would like to know about future videos, and definitely hit that bell since I don't have an upload schedule. It's a little erratic. And also you can follow me on Instagram, and that is down in the description. But let's go ahead and talk about this book. It takes place in India, and our main character is Lakshmi. She is 17 years old, and she is in an arranged, abusive marriage. And she makes the decision to escape her village and go to the big city. When she gets to the big city, she makes a living being a henna artist, and she becomes very known for her original designs. And most of her clientele are upper-class, wealthy women who also confide in her because she becomes known as a very good person to confide in, like a confidant. But unfortunately, at some point, her husband is going to find her, and he brings along a young sister that she didn't know about. This is where you can see where I'm not very educated when it comes to Indian culture. I don't know if he's bringing her as like an additional wife, because I don't know in the Indian culture if you can have more than one wife, or if he's bringing her along just, to be mean to her. I'm not sure. That's why I think I'm going to learn so much from this book. But I'm very excited, very excited. And then for my makeup book this month, I'm going to read The Light We Lost. Now it is a romance, which makes me a little bit nervous, but there have been some romances that I have enjoyed, so I have high hopes. Our main characters are Lucy and Gabe. They meet as seniors at Columbia University, and they supposedly have a day together that is just amazing and life-changing. I'm like, what are they gonna do that day? That must be some amazing day they have. But even though they have all these feelings for each other, they want to lead meaningful lives, so Gabe becomes a photojournalist and is stationed over in the Middle East doing that. Lucy is in New York pursuing her career. And basically the book is supposed to take place over a 13-year period, maybe a lot of back and forth. And it's supposed to talk a lot about whether the relationships we have are, is it fated that we're together, or do we have choice? And which is a very interesting topic to think about, fate or choice. Sometimes you'll feel like something is fated, and sometimes you'll be like, no, I think it's all choice. It's a very age-old argument, fate versus choice, but it sounds very interesting, and I hope it's a good read. If you've read it, definitely let me know. So that is all I have for the Reese Witherspoon Book Club review. I hope all of you guys are staying safe and staying sane, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.